Did you know in the 1930s that the US government intentionally gave black people syphilis? Let's talk about it. TikTok is banned, so join my free newsletter. So the Tuskegee Syphilis study began in 1932 when the US Public Health Service tricked about 600 men from Tuskegee, Alabama to participate in a long-term study. And they tricked them by telling them it was all about free healthcare. Now, the original plan was to study these men for about 6 to 9 months and then begin treating their disease. However, that did not happen, and in fact, they didn't even inform these men that they had syphilis. That part will become important later. Now, as I said, some of the men had syphilis when they arrived, but there were also men who were intentionally given the disease in order to study the effects on their bodies. Again, none of them know that they have syphilis. Now, as I said, that study started in the 1930s, so up until that point in human history, there was no treatment for syphilis at all for like the past 400 to 500 years. But in the 1940s, a man named Alexander Fleming discovers penicillin, and now you actually have a viable treatment. Now, this is way past the initial 6 to 9 months of the initial study window, but do you think they decided to give the men treatment then? Absolutely not. In fact, there were cases of nurses and doctors a part of the study going out of their way to prevent some of the men from getting treatment from their syphilis. Now, the truth comes out in 1972, and by the official numbers, about 128 men from the study passed from either syphilis or complications related to the disease. However, those are just the official records, and it doesn't account for the overall devastation faced by the men in the study. Because for a long period of time, these men did not know they had syphilis. So they went home and they gave it to their wives, their spouses, and if they didn't have a spouse, they gave it to their sexual partners, and in some cases, they even passed it on to their kids. So we do not know the full amount of people who were negatively impacted by the study. Now, the families and descendants of the men who participated in this study were eventually given a financial reward, and in 1997, former President Bill Clinton gave a national apology. But this is not an isolated event, and this really doesn't actually account for the generational trauma that someone in that family might experience. But if you like this type of content, click that link in my bio and join my newsletter.